Right, so I just want to start off this video by letting you know that those figures in the title and thumbnail are completely made up. The only reason I've put them in there is because I really wanted to grab your attention so that I could deliver a very, very important message to you in this video. And you see, I've spent the last 7 years desperately trying to recover from a debilitating condition that left me housebound for those 7 years. And the big problem with everything that I was trying was I was looking for something to do out on the internet. I was looking for answers from people, practitioners, gurus online, whoever it might have been. And I was experimenting with what people were telling me to do to try to fix my body. But what would end up happening all the time is that my body would get slightly better for the short term, and then it would revert back to behaving how it was previously. All you've got to do is look back over the last 5 to 6 years on Facebook and YouTube. I've created over 500 videos, all with the idea of wanting to try to find out what was wrong with my body and what might be wrong with other sufferers' bodies out there, so that I can share this information and we can all come together and start to make progress with our own recovery. But over this time I learned quite a few things, and most of what I ended up talking about never worked for me for the long term. And the big problem that I've seen out there in the chronic illness community, if we are to take this point on board, is that people tend to fit into one of two groups. Group one is the people that end up trying to do things that are far too complex for what their body is currently capable of being able to handle. They're trying to live like a fit and healthy human, but their body keeps crashing and becoming symptomatic as a result. And the second group of people are those who are analysing everything about their body, and they're trying to fix every variable. They're basically chasing their tail, thinking that they control everything that's going on within their body, and if they just directly target a symptom, that symptom in turn will drop off and they'll be able to get on with everyday life. But ultimately, if you're watching this video now and you've been scouring the internet for solutions for long enough, you know that both of these things don't work long term. You know that your body just keeps reverting back to the way it was before. But if both of these pathways are going to lead us to a similar outcome, which is short-term relief followed by our body reverting back to how it was before, then what option does that leave us with? And that really brings me on to the point of why so many people with a chronic condition will never recover. It's because they don't understand this crucial point. And that piece of information is that people are unawares about the importance of fine-tuning the sensory division of their peripheral nervous system. So what do I mean by this? We all have these specialized cells within our body called mechanoreceptors, and what they're responsible for is taking in external information about our environment and then converting it into an electrical signal, and that electrical signal then gets sent to the brain, and then in turn it elicits an appropriate motor response, meaning it initiates actions for the organs in the rest of our body. So if we have inaccurate sensory input into these mechanoreceptors, what that's going to mean is that our body isn't going to be properly able to interpret the world around us, and as a result we're going to be more easily triggered by everyday environments. This is one of the key reasons why people with a chronic condition really struggle to be in certain settings, or they have a low tolerance, a low threshold to being able to do what normal people can do. And the thing is, all it might have taken is a physical trauma, so a concussion, a psychological trauma, so maybe something has happened in your life, quite a stressful event, and it's offset something within the body, or a chemical trauma, so a post-infectious state, or maybe damage caused as a result of certain medication. And what ends up happening is that these mechanoreceptors can be impacted by these substances or these events occurring within the body, and as a result they send inadequate or inaccurate neuronal firing up to the brain, and then the brain, with this uncoordinated information, then sends these signals down to the organs in the rest of our body, which ends up creating an array of symptoms. Please don't ignore the message of this video, because this is something that got me from point A to point B finally on my long recovery journey, where I tried so many things over the years and nothing worked for me. But once I learned this information and understood this for myself, I actually went a step further and flew halfway across the world in order to have the sensory division of my peripheral nervous system assessed and fine-tuned. and as a result it offered me so much symptomatic alleviation, and I'm just so excited to be able to share all of that with you. And as a result, what I ended up doing was building the Unbeatable Blueprint online course. This is a course where I share absolutely everything, so much life-changing information about chronic conditions and what it ultimately takes to recover from them. And I highly advise you check it out, especially if you want to fast track your way to a brighter and more prosperous future. But back to what I was saying before, and the reason why so many people with a chronic condition will struggle to recover from their ailment is because they can't get their head around the fact that most of the symptoms that they're experiencing within their body are purely just outputs that the brain is creating automatically. They're a reflection of the inputs that our brain is continuously receiving from our external environment. And the reason why these inputs that are being received by our sensory nervous system and then sent to the brain are ongoing is because it's all about how our body is decoding the world around us. This could be very simple but fundamental aspects of everyday life. So these could be very simple things like how we actually decode gravity, our visual stimuli and positional changes. These are all things that we do every second of every day. But the problem is, if we don't have the correct machinery in place, meaning that our peripheral nervous system and the sensory division of it hasn't been fine-tuned, then our body is going to see these things as a continual stressor. But yeah, if you're somebody who's dealing with the likes of POTS, chronic fatigue syndrome, dysautonomia, ME, long COVID, post-concussion syndrome, and chronic digestive issues, maybe take into account that this could be a real possibility of why your symptoms keep persisting.